Hello horse racing fans, and welcome back to another video. Today's video is another piece of racing history, as we talk about Triple Crown winners, but not when they were at their best, but when Triple Crown winners were at their worst. Match races. The one thing no Triple Crown winner ever was able to succeed at was a match race. To date, there are 4 American Triple Crown winners that had a fabled match race against another opponent. Every single one of them lost. But let's take it piece by piece. Let's talk about each one of those losses and how this all happened. How could such mighty horses that were able to go through such troubling conditions and sweep 3 of the biggest races in all of America lose one-on-one to what would seem like an inferior horse? Well, you'll have to see. To know where this match race curse began, we have to start with the very first Triple Crown winner, the one and only Sir Barton, who didn't seem like the first candidate to win the Kentucky Derby, having never won a race. However, his trainers saw something in him, as he had been training very well up to the race. He won at Gate to Wire, and then he did it with the Preakness, the Withers Stakes, and then the Belmont Stakes, being the first ever Triple Crown winner. As a 4-year-old, he kept up his success, however, he was far from perfect. By the end of the year, he had won 5 of 12 races, but he had faced off against such world beaters as Exterminator, so it wasn't like it was very easy. Eventually, at the end of that season was his most infamous race, the Kenilworth Gold Cup. And, unsurprisingly, he was not the favorite. You might think that's weird to say because he's the Triple Crown winner. Who could possibly be better than him on paper? Well, it was a little horse named Man o' War, and Man o' War obliterated Sir Barton. As Jim McKay put it, it was no race at all. Sir Barton was just not going to beat Man o' War that day, and it wasn't even just down to the fact that Man o' War was a better horse. The racetrack was too rough for Sir Barton's sore feet, and by the end of the race, Sir Barton had lost all 4 of his horseshoes. He had just not been on his best day, and Man o' War absolutely walked. Ironically, many years later, Man o' War's best son, War Admiral, would be subject to his own match race, and just like Man o' War, he was the favorite, but things played out a little differently. Unlike Man o' War, War Admiral had the opportunity to race in the Kentucky Derby, and he did exactly what people thought Man o' War could have done if he was allowed to run. He won the Kentucky Derby, he won the Preakness, and he won the Belmont. Those 3 victories, as well as the fact that by the end of the year he had won 8 races and had not tasted defeat a single time, meant he was the easy choice to win Horse of the Year. However, this rubbed the owners of Seabiscuit the wrong way. Seabiscuit was the champion handicap horse. He had won 11 times in 15 races, as well as 10 separate handicap races. A pretty easy choice for champion handicap horse, however, it wasn't as impressive as being a Triple Crown winner, so he didn't get voted Horse of the Year. And this left Seabiscuit's owners hungry for Horse of the Year, and the only way they were going to get it was by defeating War Admiral. So, the following year, they challenged War Admiral to a match race in the fabled Pimlico Special on November 1st, 1938, and everything seemed to be setting up in War Admiral's favor. Even the idea of a match race favored horses with early speed, and War Admiral was a notorious frontrunner, never letting anybody pass him. Meanwhile, Seabiscuit was more of a pace stalker, not ideal for a match race when there's only one other opponent. As well as that, War Admiral statistically looked way better. He had only lost a single time in 9 races all year, while Seabiscuit only won 5 of 10 starts, a 50% winning average. Although, he was a seasoned veteran to match races, defeating Ligarodi in a match race earlier that year, it didn't seem to matter. War Admiral was the 1-4 favorite, and everyone predicted that Seabiscuit would just be following him the whole way. But, Seabiscuit had one thing that War Admiral did not, and that was Tom Smith. Tom Smith knew that speed was the game in match races, and so he trained Seabiscuit with an old starting bell and a whip to get him that early speed he needed to keep him in contention. So, when the race was set up and the horses walked up to the starting tape, everyone was baffled when Seabiscuit was the leader in the first quarter of a mile. And after that role reversal, the race was history. Seabiscuit led the whole way, and while War Admiral sure did try to keep up, when Seabiscuit looked him in the eye, War Admiral backed down, and Seabiscuit won by 4 lengths, setting a new track record for 1 mile and 3/16. And War Admiral's performance wasn't shabby either. It was actually his fastest time at 1 mile and 3/16 in his entire career, but even at his fastest, he wasn't enough for the mighty Seabiscuit. And so, the Triple Crown curse continued. But, before we continue our cursed and ironic tale any further, we must hearken to the jockey who won on Seabiscuit. That was George Wolfe, who guided Seabiscuit to that aggressive front-running victory. But then, he would not leave the picture just yet, as he would be a part of another Triple Crown winner match race, and this time, he would be on the opposite end, coming from behind and losing. George Wolfe would get the mount on the one and only Whirlaway. In every way conceivable, George Wolfe was playing for the complete opposite team. While Seabiscuit was a nobody that had become a somebody, Whirlaway was the fan favorite going into the match race, and was always destined for greatness. He was bred by the very best, Calumet Farm, and trained by the very best, Ben Jones, and when he was younger he needed every single bit of it because he was a horse of habit, and described by Ben Jones as the dumbest horse he had ever trained, but also described as brilliant. Whirlaway had a terrible self-destructive habit of drifting to the far outside, and this particular move would cost Whirlaway many races in his youth. However, sometimes he would be so much more talented than the rest of the field, he would win in spite of the self-handicap. But when it was time for the Triple Crown Series, Ben Jones would not let him keep this habit. With a one-eyed blinker, a lead pony, and Eddie Arcaro on his side, Whirlaway was finally corrected of his outside habits, and won the Triple Crown effortlessly, as well as making a racing grand slam when he won the Travers afterward, a feat never achieved by any other horse in history. And then there would be Whirlaway's rival-to-be, Alsab. And Alsab was a Seabiscuit type. He was not royally bred by any stretch of the imagination. His sire Good Goods was unproven, and when he was bought, it was only for $700, which, for context, the average racehorse price in the 1940s was $1,700, so Alsab was bought for less than half of that. So, despite below average price and a mediocre pedigree, Alsab outran his odds. In fact, his owner had a lot of faith in him, Albert Sabath, which is how Alsab got his name. Alsab raced 22 times at the age of 2, winning 15 of them and quickly becoming a fan favorite. Amongst those 15 victories were 11 stakes wins and even a match race, which would prove quite helpful when he had another one at the age of 3. But before all of that happened, Alsab lost a step going into the Kentucky Derby, losing 7 straight races and then losing the Derby to shutout. But he showed off the old Alsab when he won the Preakness and the Wither Stakes en route to another defeat in the Belmont, behind shutout once more. But after this, Alsab began to really rack up victories, going into the match race with wins in the Dick Wells Stakes and the American Derby. Meanwhile, Whirlaway was having his own little streak, winning the Trenton Handicap and the Narragansett Special en route to this infamous match race. Everyone loved Alsab for his underdog status and his great come-from-behind style, and everyone loved Whirlaway because of his incredible personality. It was a match race of 2 incredible fan-favorite closers. But who was going to win? Neither horse could truly play to their come-from-behind strengths because it was just themselves. There was no pace to go off of. Well, Alsab had a few ideas. Alsab took the race into his own hands while Whirlaway stayed loyal to his come-from-behind style. It would end up being his undoing. Although Whirlaway didn't go down without a fight, the 2 horses thundered down the stretch, giving everyone their money's worth, head and head down the lane with Whirlaway giving one last surge. However, it was not enough. Alsab won the race by the slimmest of margins. It was the closest that any Triple Crown winner had got to winning their own match race. But, just like always, it was not meant to be, and Alsab defeated Whirlaway. However, their fabled rivalry did not actually end with that race. Unlike every other match race we will be discussing, Alsab and Whirlaway did have a rematch. In fact, they had 2. Whirlaway avenged the loss in the match race by defeating Alsab in the 2-mile Jockey Club Gold Cup by 3/4 of a length. But then, Alsab repeated his dominance and re-established himself as the better of the 2 when he won the New York Handicap at a whopping 2 1/4 miles, something you couldn't even fathom today. Alsab had proven himself once more. It was no fluke. He had outdone Whirlaway 2-1. As we approach the end of our video, we still have one more match race to talk about. Most general racing fans can remember such famous battles as Seabiscuit vs War Admiral or Man of War vs Sir Barton. However, most racing fans don't remember Armed vs Assault. The year is 1947, and top money earning honors and Horse of the Year are both in hot contention, with two of the toughest ones being Texas-bred underdogs. First, Stymie, a horse that went from a $1,500 claimer to the richest horse in all of the United States, and the first racehorse ever to break $900,000. He was dubbed by many as the best bargain since Alsab. And then there was Assault. Many questioned if he would ever even make it to the races in the first place due to a physical deformity on his right hoof that he sustained as a foal when he impaled it on a surveyor stake. Despite an awkward gait and a deformed hoof, he was able to win the Triple Crown, and continued to contain his form when he went on as a 4-year-old to face off against Stymie multiple times. The two would trade blows, sometimes trading back-to-back races, with each one having their own time as top money earner. And then there was Armed, who was not in this rivalry. Armed had not faced either of them, but eventually a proposition for a match race came to be, because a $100,000 match race would give either horse the chance to finally be the top money earner once and for all. So, the race was made, but it was postponed due to an injury on Assault's behalf. Then, when the race was rescheduled, Assault got injured again. Although he recuperated quickly, there was still lots of doubt about whether he was in top condition. Even the trainers admitted they would not have raced him if it was any other race other than a match race, and they only did it to please the public, which is kind of unfortunate. Because of this, Assault was not on his best, and was eased up, losing by 8 lengths, as Armed effortlessly won. Armed went on to win the Soon-to-Be Mile, and then finish 3rd in one last race, and take home Horse of the Year and Top Money Earner of the Year. And that was the last time a Triple Crown winner ever ran in a match race. None of them ever won. They did come close, but it never went in their favor. And there are a couple of reasons why the match races didn't go in the favor of the Triple Crown winner. One of them being the general inauthenticity of match races, because they are not like any other race in existence. Most horse races, there's multiple horses in it, and you can play off things like pace. However, in a match race, you have to either make your own pace or come off the pace of a single individual racehorse, which was the undoing of Whirlaway, who usually benefited from a faster pace and multiple horses. He couldn't exactly close off a single individual. As well as that, both Sir Barton and Assault failed because of the fact that they had prior ailments going into their races. They were just destined to lose. And War Admiral lost because of the pure genius of Tom Smith. In short, match racing is unfair and doesn't really prove a lot. Sure, Nashua beat Swaps in their match race, but objectively Swaps was the better horse and was not on his best that day, kind of proving the invalidity of match races. As well as that, match races are generally just deadly and useless, which is why they're not really done much today. And that concludes the Triple Crown Curse. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it informative, and comment down other pieces of racing history I should cover. See you guys next time.